Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another PRNEWS Live. I'm Nicole Schumann, Senior Editor at PRNEWS, and I'd like to thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions today, just pop them into the comments as usual, and we'll get to them throughout the chat. Today, I'd like to welcome two special guests, PRNEWS Senior Marketing Coordinator, Devin Fishburne, who's with us for the first time, very exciting, and Julie Ulrich. Ulrich, did I say that right?
You said it right. Very good. Ulrich.
Okay, great. Julie Ulrich, Communications Strategist at Idaho National Laboratory. So we've got someone farther west than us usually. And Devin's here to tell us more about the CSR and Diversity Awards, as well as the Social Impact Summit, which you have coming up next week on April 27th, which we're very excited about. And Julie is a finalist for the awards, and she's here to tell us more about their campaign, which promoted diversity and inclusion within the hiring space. It's pretty cool. So welcome to you both. Devin, I'd love to start with a bit about the CSR and Diversity Awards. It's a bit different from years past. We've got a whole day virtual summit planned with great guests, as well as a virtual awards gala. So can you explain a little bit more about the summit and why PRNEWS introduced it this year?
For sure. So it is a bit different than years past. We usually don't have content conjoined with any of our awards programs, but a lot of the entries that we received in both the CSR Nonprofit Awards and the Diversity Awards were so inspirational, and at a time when social justice and social good is at the forefront of our society. We found that there's a lot that we can learn from a lot of the campaigns. So we put together a half-day conference. It's going to be 10 sessions from international panelists. We have people from Malaysia, from Brazil, and of course, from here in the States to tell us how they built their social good campaigns, how they reach diverse audiences, how we can be better allies, and how we can be allies to our communities as well. So it's super interesting, and I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited. The CSR awards usually are my favorite awards every year, just because I love to see the creativity and the innovation people are bringing. But now, with the DEI component as well, I think we have a whole new group of voices to listen to and learn from. So I think I've seen some of the campaigns, and they're pretty interesting. So I think people have some interesting stuff to learn from. And Devin, it's also a great opportunity to learn from honoree from a campaign such as Julie's. What can we expect from this year's awards that might have differed from last year's awards?
So besides being totally virtual for the first time, the CSR and Nonprofit Awards, which you said is an all-time favorite for a lot of our audience, is also being joined by the inaugural Diversity Awards, which adds a new element to it. So there is a new found focus on DEI. It's also more people-focused for the first time. So we're representing underrepresented or communicators or persons from marginalized groups, as well as allies, alongside the campaigns for the first time, which I think adds something new to it. And because of opportunities like this LinkedIn Live and some of the previous episodes, as well as the summit, we're getting a more in-depth look at the campaigns. And so it's an opportunity not only to see them up close, but learn, what made them so successful and how can we replicate that success in our careers as well.
Yeah, I love to hear about the origin of a lot of these things. I know last week we had Jen on, talking about Ramadan and the Julie's Date campaign, and it was great to learn about that and hear about all that. And, hopefully brands take some of this away, and, agencies as well, and, how they can expand on different holidays and different things. So thank you, Devin, for being on, and you're welcome to join us for the rest of the call, or if you have stuff to do, you can always go, but we're happy to have you here. So actually stand if we have some more questions about the awards or the summit at all. Now I'd like to highlight an article we featured last week in PRNEWS regarding work from home workplace culture, which is still going on for many, many people, majority. But also, people are working from home. They are comfortable with working from home now, but also how are companies keeping employees engaged? So Julie, I'd like to, and I'll share the article on the screen as well. Julie, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your organization, what it is, what you guys do, and then we'll kind of talk about, how it relates to the article as well.
Sure, yes, and thank you so much for having me here today. So I'm Julie Ulrich, a communications strategist at Idaho National Lab. And we are based in Idaho Falls, Idaho, which is in Southeast Idaho. It's a beautiful area of the country. And we're one of the Department of Energy's 17 national laboratories and the leading center for nuclear research and development. We also do research in cybersecurity and clean energy solutions, so pretty diverse portfolio. We've got roughly 5,200 employees, and we're one of Idaho's largest employers. And then we also have, employees from over 133 countries. So although we're in Idaho, the city of Idaho Falls is really a great sampling of the entire world. You can meet people from all over the world because we draw them to the laboratory. So our current workforce, we have about 40% of our employees on site and about 60% teleworking. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and we're evaluating the future.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, especially too, because Happy Earth Day. So I'm sure that's a good, interesting day at your organization. I'm sure you guys talk about that as well. And you said it's quite divided, the workforce, in terms of who's there and who's working from home. And I'm sure you felt this over the past year at your organization. Have you been working from home for the most part? You're one of the...
Yeah, so I'm one of the teleworkers, and we've been teleworking since mid-March of last year. So we've passed the year mark.
Whoever thought it would be, whoever thought it would be a whole year. Yeah, we are as well. And for those that have been working from home, how has your company worked to keep up morale and a sense of belonging to a team?
Yeah, so every challenge is an opportunity, and the pandemic was no different. So our business really is innovation. We do scientific research and demonstration, and so we're always working to figure out innovative solutions because we need that creativity to keep our mission going and to meet the needs of our country, really, for our critical infrastructure and our energy solutions. So research shows that when employees feel they belong, then they're more motivated, productive, and engaged. So we've been really focusing on belonging, especially during the pandemic, and giving employees resources to make those connections with each other, even those who are remote workers like me. So we've had a really increased focus on wellness for our employees. We have seminars for people to attend, and we're doing a lot of two-way engagement campaigns. So for instance, we had a campaign where we'd say, share us a photo of something that makes you happy. And so we have not just us putting out content, but we're also trying to get feedback from employees and help them stay engaged that way. We use things like Teams chats, and we have a very active employee association that really helps keep people connected. So they're hosting things like trivia nights and cooking classes and concerts. So just all sorts of things that you would normally do outside of the pandemic, we're trying to link people to those and still have a sense of togetherness.
That's a good idea. I'd like to see some of our colleagues, broadcast their musical talents. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you feel about that, Devin, but I would like to see it. I know they're out there. And Julie, for those not working from home, what has the company done to create some sense of calm in a year with a lot of turmoil, where it might be easier if everybody was on site, but they're not, or, I'm sure everybody's dealing with different things at home as well.
Right. So due to the nature of our work, we have a lot of laboratories and people who just can't telework. It just doesn't make sense. And so a lot of our population is on site still. And especially with our communications, we've been really careful to make sure we're including everybody and not just the teleworkers, although there's some heavy lifting on, how to get our teleworkers the right equipment and make sure that they were settled, but just not to leave them behind. And they have a lot of the same resources on site as the teleworkers do. We're just delivering it in a different way. So, for instance, we have leadership councils that have been running just the same as they would without a pandemic. And so our leadership councils are kind of like what other organizations might call employee resource groups or affinity groups. And those have really helped those on-site and remote workers stay connected and engaged. And so their goal is just to really help people bring their best self to work and continue with their professional development. And that's been a really great retention tool for us. And then for both remote workers and on-site, we just communicate often and with transparency as much as we can, give as much information as we can and alleviate that uncertainty for what the future might bring. So, yeah.
That's great. And you said you guys use Teams?
We do, yeah. So we use Microsoft Teams. That's the platform that we communicate with. And on there we have, Teams channels. We've got Teams for, working parents, for instance. And so there's a working parents chat that's always going on in the background. We've got Teams for my own communications team that, we have, chats every day, and we have special memes that we share to keep things kind of fun and light sometimes. So there's, just a lot of ways that we never would have thought we could stay connected that we've discovered kind of moving through this time.
That's great. And this kind of rolls into your campaign a little bit that I'd like to talk about next. I'd like to talk about your entry campaign, for the CSR and Diversity Awards. It reflects on something a lot of companies are also looking into this year, creating a more inclusive and diverse working environment. Julie, can you give us a summary of your campaign and some of the goals you were hoping to achieve with it?
Sure, yeah, and I just have to say I'm really honored to represent an amazing team. I mean, there's only me here today, but both colleagues in the inclusion discipline and my communications and outreach colleagues have all contributed to the campaign. So it's not a single person. It's a huge collaboration and teamwork effort. But for us, inclusion has always been something that Idaho National Laboratory has cared about. But what's different is in the past few years, we've really recognized the transformational effects that inclusion can have on every single team at the lab. So research shows that inclusion builds high-performing teams and increases employee engagement, and that when you have an engaged workforce, that increases organizational performance. And you see things like higher productivity, improved quality, and lower attrition. So we know that the research shows that this is a good thing to do for many reasons. And it's, especially in our scientific organization, we're very data driven because that's what our employee population values. And so, for example, I have a colleague who's a scientist, and you ask him, how did you sleep last night? And he says, let me check my watch and I'll let you know, right? He checks his watch. So that's kind of an example of the mindset of a lot of our employees is they want that research and data. And that's been a really key effort to getting our messages across. We also made the decision to embed inclusion into all areas of the laboratory. So we have, as I mentioned, we've got a lot of different areas we do research in, but we also have very diverse positions. And there's things, such diversity that just doesn't exist in the private sector. We've got firefighters, police officers, skilled technicians, doctors, nurses, psychologists, scientists, engineers, archaeologists. I mean, you name it. We have people in our workforce who are covering those areas. So when we looked at all of our laboratory as a whole, we saw that every team would benefit from increasing their cultural acumen and inclusion. So in 2017, then we decided to embark on this new inclusion journey towards inclusive diversity. And what I mean when I say inclusive diversity is just representative of every people demographic. So everybody is part of our inclusion strategy because we need everyone for our efforts to be successful. And our approach was grounded in psychological safety and a culture of belonging and just a commitment to dignity and respect for everyone. And so that was really the foundation for our whole program.
That's great. And, I know in the communications industry, people are, definitely trying to, create more diverse teams, with different backgrounds because, it helps them creatively, helps us come up with different ideas and viewpoints that we may not have considered before. So it's nice to see, and I'm sure, like you said, it benefits your organization as well. Now, coming from the communications arm of the company, what types of messaging and techniques did your team create in order to help achieve these goals?
Yeah, so it is kind of a big lift to figure out how to do this. And it's always looking at not best practices, but next practices. Where are we going to go in the future? And we're always trying to think ahead that way. So our laboratory director had a really clear call to action, and that was to increase inclusive diversity within the organization. And so we needed to figure out how to do that. And so we integrated inclusive diversity into every single thing that we do. So in the communications realm, that means into our employment branding and our recruitment outreach. So things like news releases, getting national award recognition to help position us as an employer of choice, and social media posts, all of those, ways to get inclusion embedded into it. That's all ways that we could do that with our communications. We also developed, benefits packages that were inclusive of diverse multi-generational workforces. So looking at that, in the benefits area. And, internally, we deployed a series of symposiums and workshops that engaged thousands of our employees annually. And we started off with just the basic inclusion concepts, things like building bridges with people who are different from you or different like you, understanding your impact on others. And then from that, we had some really great success. And that demand led to some more advanced concepts like bullying, harassment, psychological safety, cultural acumen. And so the success of that, then we built on it. And now we're elevated to a place where we're having conversations about gossip and equity and appreciating differences. So, really each step you take helps you get to a next level. And then equally important, we also took very active and visible steps to enlist the surrounding community in its inclusion journey as well. And so that's helped make Southeast Idaho a really great inclusive destination for next generation talent.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm curious, I think it sounds great. I'm sure Devin thought it sounded great too. He's seen a lot of the, nominees, a lot of honorees and awards. What type of results have you seen since the launch of the campaign, just within your own goals and with employees?
Yeah, so we've seen some great results, and we measure everything, and that's also key to what we do with our strategy. But we've seen our ability to continue to hire locally, nationally, and globally, continue and get even stronger. We've gotten national recognition as an employer of choice for the LGBTQ plus community, for women, for people of color, people with disabilities in the veterans communities. So that's helped fuel further our branding and outreach. We've saved more than $1.6 million through reduced attrition for our employees. So that's been very significant. We've also seen substantial growth in our inclusively diverse representation at the laboratory. And we've launched really a bold step on pay equity to ensure long-term retention. So making sure that, everything that we're doing is fair. Every employee who works here is fairly compensated. So all of those things are kind of the results of this campaign and program that we've been working on.
Have you seen with employees, them being more open and, talking about their needs and, from the campaign and, especially, having these groups and different conversations, does it seem like everybody, feels a little bit more comfortable talking about, the issues that they might have within the organization or personally?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. We've seen some great feedback from employees. And after we do a lot of our events, we have employee surveys. And so we can collect feedback that way. And we've just seen people saying, this is so great. This has helped me think about things in a different way. This makes me aware of what I want to do for my own personal development. Just some really great results. So our team is just consistently thinking about opportunities, not only to impact the culture, but also bottom line results. And so, we use data-driven initiatives for that reason, because that really helps solidify, what we're going to do into the future. So, because we're the nation's premier national nuclear laboratory, in order for us to continue to lead, we really need to cultivate this inclusive environment and, make it a great place to work for everyone. And, now that I've been here with the laboratory for almost 11 years, I have found that it's really, really great. And I really have seen us progress in our inclusivity and, things like professional development, career development. Those are all reasons why I've chosen to stay for so long, because it's just really a great place to work.
That's great. And you made the point about attrition and keeping employees. And I think, initiatives like this really do help out to show that the company really does care about employees and the environment that they're going to be working in. So, other organizations might be watching this, other representatives. What is your advice for other organizations looking to launch these types of campaigns and achieve similar goals?
Yeah, so one thing that I have mentioned many times, but it's because it's so important, is the research and data. Our employee population really values that, and that has been great for getting, this inclusion messaging out. Anecdotally, people might feel that they're doing really well in this space, but when you show them the data, that actually can help change behaviors. So using that is really great. Also, just increasing awareness in general about how inclusion can lead to higher performing teams. I can't think of a manager out there who wouldn't want, the most high performing team that they can have. And so helping them learn about the benefits of that is really great. Also making sure that you're enhancing psychological, physical, and emotional safety. Because then when people feel safe, they can focus on the work that they're doing and just bring their best self to work. So that's been a great thing for us too. And then minimizing the misunderstandings regarding the purpose of inclusion. A lot of people might think it's a win versus loss instead of a win-win, or, it's not really an and or. It's not an either or, it's an and. It's bringing more people in and you benefit from that. It's not a detriment to bring in some additional people and different viewpoints and backgrounds. So to work on that kind of messaging and keep moving forward. That's what we're doing. We're going to keep moving forward and continue on this journey. So I would invite people of all backgrounds and perspectives and ideas. Just let you know you're welcome at INL. And if you're looking for an opportunity to learn and grow and give back to the nation, I highly recommend you check us out. You can go to inl.gov/careers for that.
And from what I've heard, Idaho is hot to move to right now.
It is. We're seeing a lot of people coming here. The secret is out.
Well, that's great. And Devin, you were able to look at a lot of these campaigns for people that, might be looking to, apply to these sorts of awards and those sorts of things. I mean, what's like, Julie explained their campaign. What stood out to you in terms of what they contributed?
For sure. I think they have a long-standing history with these practices also. So one thing that the awards focused on is we really wanted to highlight organizations where this is a legitimate and authentic part of their culture. So that was a definite standout for them. And it's really difficult to move forward with these types of programs in the private sector, especially. And diversification of private sector jobs is something that's not sort of always talked about. So they definitely have that unique perspective as well. And, I think we all have the sticker shock of Idaho doesn't sound like a diverse place, but it's amazing that, they sort of reinvented or reimagined the vision of Idaho that the judges had. And I think that's really cool storytelling component to their application. And the results, speak for themselves. They've won numerous awards already, and they're in contention for another one here next week.
Well, that's great. Well, I wish you luck, Julie, and your team and everybody that was involved. You guys are doing great things. And I think, like you said, everything that you do at your company impacts the community as well. So, we're happy to hear that and eager to see more of that, not just from you guys, but other companies as well in the future. So thanks for that. I want to thank everybody for joining PRNEWS Live today, and thank you to Julie for taking the time out, and for Devin to come on and take time out of his busy schedule today. If you're curious to learn more about creative, inclusive campaigns such as these, there's still time to register for the first Social Impact Summit next week on April 27th. I'll post the link in the comments, but there are, some really great speakers and examples of real work being done to impact communities in terms of diversity, equality and inclusion, and you really don't want to miss it. It's going to be, I'm very excited for it, and I'm excited to see the winners as well for the awards, because that's always a fun thing to find out and learn about. So I'll post that in the comments as well for anybody that's interested. Again, thank you all for joining us today. We'll be back soon with another great LinkedIn Live, and we'll see you then. Stay well.
Thank you.